Hello, everybody. My name is Harshada Zargar, and I'm a second year student of the School of Habitat Studies. And I welcome you all to this event on behalf of the Progressive Students Forum. So many of us met during the virtual tour, and we sort of told you how PSF believes and works towards making the higher educational space more inclusive for all students, and particularly those that come from the marginalized sections. So today's event, that is a workshop on academic writing, is one of such initiatives that intends to help everybody with the basic sort of struggles all of us face during the initial days of our journey at TIS, like how to write assignments, how to do citations, then how to do, how to look for relevant data, how to structure assignments, and all these kinds of basic questions that we're trying to address here. So I welcome you all. And the session will basically be divided into two parts. The first part will be an informative session that will be taken up by Aabid Firdausi. Aabid is a research scholar at the John Hopkins University in USA. He is an avid writer and a reader, and he has various publications in very well-known and popular journals. And the second part will be a Q&A session where you can turn on your videos and maybe chat in the chat box whatever queries you have, and we will try to resolve this. So having said that, I welcome Abid to start the session. Over to you, Abid.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure and to be here on the other side of the table. I mean, I hope I can do some justice to the way you guys chose to spend your Saturday evening listening to some talk on academic writing. I hope you take away something from this presentation. This is, I wouldn't really call this a workshop because workshop is more like hands-on training, and that's not something that you could do like in an hour or something. But I would say that I made a presentation, and I would try to like give you the basics about how do you what is an introduction to academic writing and things like that. So I mean, I'm also like just settling into this new country. It's been just like a few weeks since I've been here, so I also didn't get the time, to actually prepare a well concrete presentation. But I hope I can do justice to you all being here. And I couldn't really say no to when my comrades at PSF asked me to present something. I am usually a bit hesitant, in taking up such things, but I guess like this is my way of staying connected with the organization that has taught me so much and so many invaluable lessons about life and the way I see the world also. And I thank the organizers for being kind enough to invite me to do this presentation. So yeah, so I'll just share my screen and okay. So
Apit,
can you guys?
just 1 minute. Yeah, before you start, so we got a lot of registrations, around 300. So we could only share the link with the first 100 people.
Okay.
And we will try to share the materials with the people who couldn't attend the session.
Sure,
go ahead.
sure,
Thank
absolutely, absolutely. Great. Okay, so as I said, I wouldn't call this a workshop. I would say that this is a presentation. And so from this presentation, I hope to touch upon a few themes, like what is academic research, what is writing, and why is it important? And how do you structure a piece of academic writing? So this could be like an assignment that you write, an essay that you write, or your research proposal, an abstract for a journal, or your dissertation eventually. So how do you really structure a piece of academic writing, a standard structure? What is that? And where to find resources for writing, right? Like that is obviously like very important. And as I understand, this is a mixed crowd that we have here. Some people might be already familiar with academic journals and the debates that go around, and what is the purpose of academic writing. Some people may not be familiar at all. and that's fine. So I guess like everybody will be able to take something away from this presentation. So yeah, and when you start finding resources for writing, it can be overwhelming, right? Like it can be a lot of material that's on a particular topic, because people build careers on writing academic journal, writing and doing research, right? So there is a lot of overproduction. So, but then how do you draw the line, right? Where do you stop reading and where do you start writing on your own? Okay, that's a confusion everybody faces. So I'll briefly touch upon that. And when you actually write a particular piece of academic writing, how do you not plagiarize? So that is a big concern and ethical concern as well. And that would probably, like, if you start plagiarizing, your grades will also go down. And how to be really smart about it, right? Like that's an art of writing that you'll eventually pick up. I'll also touch like briefly on that as well. And at the end, I will just give you a rough guide to citing academic journals and academic work. And there are like different forms of citation, but then I will be using a very particular form, and I'll give you some examples about that. Okay, so an introduction to academic writing. I guess I'll just minimize this. Yeah. So what is academic writing, and what is it for? Right. Like that's an important question. So you have people do a lot of research, and in order to answer questions about the world, and you have to communicate those findings of your research. And or someone might have a particular research question. For instance, why is there so much informal, insecure employment or unemployment, for instance, in India, right? So people would be fascinated with this one question, and they would want to answer that question. So, and you would want to communicate the findings of your research, right? So that is why you use academic writing, to communicate findings of your research or to answer particular research questions. So this could be in the form of like writing research articles for journals. It could be a literature review that you do as part of your assignments. It could be abstracts that you might have to do as part of your assignment, or because you want to write a journal article and you have to write an abstract. An abstract is like a concise summary of the entire journal article. We'll get to that in a minute. Or it could be actually to write your dissertation. You might want to study unemployment in, for instance, in a particular part in India, right? Again, that might be your research question, and you want to write a dissertation on that. So all this is really important for academic writing. And why is this important? As I said, it is to communicate new findings about research, and it also informs policy making, right? Like it helps to frame better policies and makes better sense of the world. And also, as I said, this is a career in itself. So in order to be in the job market, and you need to produce articles, and that is how people really evaluate your performance or things like that. So certain basic features of academic writing before we move ahead. First is that logical reasoning. That is very important. Facts is more important than feelings. You might have certain strong feelings about a particular phenomenon, and that might actually motivate you to do that particular research. But then when you actually do that research, when you study that topic in more detail, you might feel like, oh, that is not what I initially had in mind. So you need to actually be very receptive to the new things that the field can teach you. And that is why I say facts is more important than feelings. And this is the famous economist John Maynard Keynes said, or is alleged to have said, when facts change, I change my opinion also, right? So I think that is also a good way to approach the field, right? Like you might have, we as humans, we all have certain prejudices, certain biases, and let the field teach you, right? And that is important. And when you always write a particular essay or an academic piece, you need to make sure that the whole text is very coherent. It's an organic whole, the entire body. So from start to finish, it needs to be an organic whole, which means that the flow of the arguments must be important. And this is a skill that you usually pick up as you write. And always try to keep this small tip in mind. Each paragraph should have a single idea. Like, don't mix too many ideas in one paragraph, because that's going to be very confusing, right? And each paragraph should flow with one another. So for instance, if I'm writing an essay on unemployment, I can talk about probably unemployment globally, right? And then I talk about unemployment in India and what are the policies that have been devised in order to combat unemployment. Then I talk about why these policies are inadequate, and then I talk about a case study. Okay, like why this particular policy that was intended to combat unemployment was ineffective in this particular area that I'm interested in. And then I say, okay, so this is what you can do in order to actually combat unemployment in this particular area, and how this could be applied to the rest of the country. So that is a flow of an argument. And always make sure that you have an outline about how to write a particular essay. So you have to keep that flow of argument in mind, and always be concise. I mean, don't write for the sake of filling pages. I understand that it's very appealing to do that, because you probably, like, your professors will give you assignments to write like 1,500 or 2,000 words, and you're like, oh geez, that's like 3-4 pages, and how am I going to write that? But then always, like, make sure that a professor can always sense that. There are some professors who look at the number of pages, but they're like in the minority. You would probably know from your own department while talking to your seniors what that kind of particular professor wants. But then usually, like, keep in mind that don't write for the sake of filling pages. And always looks for and academic writing is always about critical analysis, which means that when you look at a particular piece of academic writing, you look for the gaps in that particular research. And this could be this could be something that simply doesn't make sense to you, right? And you want to talk something about it based on your own experience. But as I said, you can obviously, like, approach a research question based on your own experience, but then let the facts speak for themselves, right? Like, give primacy to the facts and the objective evidence at hand. Now, a few tips that you have to keep in mind while writing, again, is writing is a conversation that you have with this existing literature that already is there. So you're trying to converse with other authors, right? Like, who's already written on that particular topic, and you want to say something to them, because you're bringing your own perspective, your own view about a particular topic, and that's a conversation that you're having, right? And always keep in mind that, because that makes the whole process much more exciting. And that's a process, right? Writing is a process, and it's a non-linear process. It's not like when you read a particular text, you can have an intro, a summary, your own case study, and then you conclude. That is a linear flow. But writing is never linear, and it's not a linear process at all. The final output might look linear, that the essay might look linear, but the whole process is very non-linear. It can be very frustrating. So always, like, build in a system for yourself that works for yourself. There might be certain points of the day when you feel like writing. Identify those times of the day when you feel like writing and reserve that for writing, right? That is a habit formation thing that you have to do. And that is how you get across through writing a lot of assignments also. Sometimes you just don't feel like writing, but at certain points of the day, you're like, oh, you are in that flow state of mind where you can actually write and think and things like that. So you have to identify that slowly. You'll get into that. Don't worry if you don't have anything like that right now. You'll eventually find that time of the day where you can actually sit and write, and build a system for yourself. Just like you wake up and go to brush your teeth automatically. I think it's important to actually create a habit for writing also, especially when you're in a writing intensive program, if you're in a writing intensive program at this. And always set realistic goals about writing. I mean, it's a finite project. You might have very ambitious ideas like solving global poverty or unemployment or something like that through your writing. You might have very ambitious goals, but then you need to understand that it's a finite project and there's a deadline to it. So always stick to that. And I'll come to that in like a few slides. Now, when we talk about academic writing, I just wanted to give you an example. This is a long quote from a text by probably Santa Claus in 19th century. Anybody wants to guess who wrote this is free to guess in the chat box. So I'm not reading the whole thing, but I just highlighted a few concepts. So this is a standard piece of academic writing. You can see there are different, people tend to write in jargon, right? And this jargon is like peculiar to that particular field. So people within that field would understand what this means. And suddenly you might not. Like, so when you read a particular sentence, you see words like accumulation of capital, surplus value, capitalistic production, masses of capital and of labor power. And what the hell is labor power, right? Why not labor, right? Why is it called labor power? Commodities, what is commodities, and what is primitive accumulation, and who the hell is Adam Smith, right? And then there would be certain phrases within that particular paragraph, or within that particular sentence, that captures the whole idea of what this person is saying. And accumulation, not the result of capitalistic mode of production, but its starting point, right? Like, I'm not going to explain what this sentence is, but I just wanted to give you a picture about how an academic writing can look. Now, this could be like overwhelming for a person who really doesn't know what all this is. So what you do is, like, you take these concepts, probably highlight these concepts that you don't understand, and go back, check for Google is there. It's very easy to find the meaning of these things, and look at what this means, and then come back, and this would actually make much more sense. It's just like reading English language, and you don't find a word that you don't know. You find a word that you don't know the meaning of. You go to the dictionary after some time, and then you come back to it, and it makes much more sense. And this is just applicable to academic writing also. So just fair warning, there's a lot of jargon in academic writing, and that's just how people thrive and distinguish themselves from other people. But that's just how it is. So you need to understand that there's a story here that is being told in this particular quote, and there are lots of concepts, and why is it important also, right? Like, why this is, as I said, this was written in the 19th century, and why is it important for us right now? Because it is probably telling the origins of the system that we live in, the society that we live in, right? Now, as I said, you will come across a lot of jargon in your field. I just wrote like a couple of them that came to my mind, like development, violence, epistemology, ontology, postmodern, post-structural. These are words that you would probably come across a lot in this, and it could be very confusing. People like Foucault, Gramsci. I mean, what are these people up to? Just take some time off, like away from your readings, and go and Google for these terms, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find lots of explainers that make sense of it. And always, this is something that I keep personally to me also. Like, when you read a particular theory or a particular person, always understand that that person is coming from a certain background, a social background, a political background, and is responding to certain currents of opinion. Along with that, keep in mind that always, and it makes much more sense why people say what they say when you know why they're saying that. I hope I'm clear. So look at the background, look at the interesting stories that made them say these things, and that actually makes much more sense. Now, structure of a standard academic writing. So you have any piece of academic writing would have a standard structure, right? And this is something that you just have to keep in mind. And like, there will be an introduction which provides you a background to that particular question, and then after like 2 or 3 paragraphs, there will be, you're trying to review the existing literature, the main points in that existing literature related to that topic. And then after some time, you would critique those main arguments in that existing literature and identify the gaps in the existing literature. And then you would bring in your own input as to why you are motivated to study that, right? And this could be in the form of bringing in a new methodology to study that particular research. A methodology is just a way of doing things, like your particular approach to a particular question. Like, for instance, as I said, unemployment, you might have a certain methodology to study unemployment, right? And I'm not going into the details and confusing you guys, but then you bring in a certain methodology to study a particular topic, and you could have a particular case study to substantiate your argument or your own perspective of the whole subject, right? And then you conclude, you summarize your arguments and how does it contribute to the existing literature. So this is how a standard piece of academic writing, it could be anything, like it could be even your dissertation. It could be like something like this. You have an introductory chapter, a literature chapter probably, and then you bring in your own input, and then you conclude. So it'll be like 5 chapters in your dissertation or 6 chapters in your dissertation. And this, the same format is followed in like a journal article also. So you need to understand that they follow a pattern, which means that you can look, right? Like, you can search for the key arguments from this outline itself. Like, what is the person who's writing this article trying to tell you new? So you look at like probably like the 4th section or the 3rd section, or you just read the introduction and a conclusion also, right? That's always a useful tool to understand like what is being told in the literature or in that particular article. So this is how you read also, and this is how you write also, right? Like, so it's a pretty much standard format. I hope that's clear. Now, the golden question is how to start, right? Like, we all know this, like you probably have come across all these points also, but then the big question is like, how do I start? You have a blank page in front of you. How are you going to start writing, right? You need to know that writing is like cooking. Like, you can't cook without pots and pans and without groceries, right? Like, so you need to shop for all those things and get it ready, and then you start cooking. It's pretty much like that for writing also. So you need to read. Obviously, you need to read a lot, quite a lot, if you want to write well also. And when you read, the one thing that I've actually found interesting, which is that people tend to take notes. So if you have a PDF, you keep highlighting, right? Like, you highlight using yellow or whatever, and the whole PDF might look like might just turn yellow, right? Or if you have a textbook, you just keep underlining and something like that. So uh, 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 but probably you take physical notes, well and good, but then sometimes you may not, right? So but then I would insist that it's always important to take down notes when you're reading something. Take down physical notes or digital notes or whatever, that doesn't matter. But then you have to build a system for note taking, and note taking is extremely important, because when you start reading something, and you take down your notes, you would, and when you want to write your particular assignment about that particular article, you would always want to go back to your notes, right? And that's important. And it's again important to build a system to take notes, right? Nobody teaches you that in school. That is crazy. But when you build a system to take down notes, it helps you to organize your thoughts, and it leads eventually to a coherent piece of academic writing. And I think that's important to understand. So there is this book called by Songke Aharon. It's called How to Take Smart Notes. It's a small book. The crux of the essay, you can just Google for it, and you can just find it online also. There are lots of blogs written on it. And this is especially for students who are struggling to write academic pieces, essays, journal articles, things like that. So it helps you with building a system in order to take down notes. This method, it's a method of note taking called the Zettelkasten method. I'm not going into detail about that. But then what Songke talks about in his book is like, you need to take down 3 layers of notes. Okay, for first, when you read a particular text, you take down your literature notes. Okay, like whatever is being written. Don't quote the entire thing and just copy paste it. No, don't. Just see what strikes you in that particular piece of academic writing, and take down your literature notes. Okay, and then based on those literature notes, you will have some idea about what suddenly something might strike you. Okay, so keep another tab or a word pad or something like that open in order to jot down your fleeting notes. It's your fleeting thoughts on the particular text that you're engaging with. And then you take another app, like it could be Notion or Obsidian. These are apps that you can use in order for note taking. It's a fancy apps, but then it's pretty useful once you start using this, and once you start getting adjusted to it. So might as well start early if you want to actually engage in academic writing in the future, as if you want to have a research career or something like that also. So you could use these apps to note down your permanent notes, and that will be there, that will be saved there. So, and that will be saved there in the sense, like, when you're dealing with a particular question, believe me, you will have to engage with that question in one form or the other at a later semester also. So if you're dealing with unemployment like first semester, and then you write down your notes somewhere and then you throw it away, you would want to revisit that question at a later place also, maybe for your dissertation, maybe for something else, right? So always like keep a system of taking down notes, and it always helps to and make it a habit, and that's also important. So I've mentioned like Zotero is also an app that you can use for taking down literature notes, which means like you could just import the journal article that you're reading, and then suddenly Zotero detects the details of those articles. Like you could see the author, the journal, the issue, things like that, and it also gives you the reference, the citation, and you could click on it and add a note to that particular piece of literature. So it's useful. I'm not going to like depth about it. You could just learn. It's fairly easy to use. You could just take a YouTube tutorial or something like that, and try to use like Notion, Obsidian, etc. There are many YouTube tutorials to do that. One thing about Obsidian is like it helps you to develop a sort of a layout, like what do you call, like it's a web diagram. So you could actually use different nodes in order to, like, you're looking at unemployment in India, and then you want to look at unemployment in Pakistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, so basically South Asia, and you want to create like a web diagram that actually of the commonalities between these four countries. And if you want to write an essay about unemployment in South Asia, then you can actually do that in Obsidian. Like you could see something like a chart with the major points, and visualizing something before writing is important. And that's how you get across this blank paper crisis, right? Like this writing block. Now, when I say this, it's not that I have figured this all out. Please don't think that. I mean, I'm also struggling with all these issues, but then these are some things that, I've read and I thought I guess I could share with you guys. So yeah, hope this is somewhat useful. Now, where do you find resources, right? Like this is pretty basic. First is like Google. There is a monopolization of information sharing, so you have to actually look at Google News and Google Scholar, right? So for Google, for op-eds, your policy reports like the World Bank or the United Nations or the ILO or some NGOs that are working in your particular area, just Google for it. Like you will find like a wealth of information about any topic under the sun. Google News for the latest news, which would provide you interesting case studies about what you're trying to write about. For instance, as I was talking about earlier, like if there is a policy to combat unemployment and you want to know about whether that worked in like but any other area, you would probably want to use Google News, because there might be some news article about it somewhere, right? So it gives you the latest news also. It's much more convenient. And then the Google Scholar is another thing that is used by academics, and which is quite simple. And I don't know like if you guys are familiar with it, but you just go to scholar.google.com and then you just type a keyword, whatever is of interest to you. And again, if you want to type like unemployment, like you would see like existing articles that on unemployment, like, and you can see them and you can see what interests you. If you write like unemployment in India, you'll find articles like with respect to India, right? Like so, and that's also a way that you can actually identify the existing journals on that area. So you would want to like make a list of or identify at least the key journals for dealing with a particular topic, because that is very important, because those are the journals. And once you start identifying journals, it helps you to identify the literature also easier that is available for you. Now, as I said, there are like main journals are like economic and political, the EPW. I'm sure like you might come across this journal in your course. Somebody is gonna give you EPW articles. It's there like in this. It's a big thing. Of course, it's in India. It's the most prestigious journal that you can publish in India. Then you have like publishing houses like Sage, Taylor and Francis, Springer, etc. They have their own set of journals, like hundreds of journals. So if you're studying, for instance, agrarian change, there are journals like the Journal of Peasant Studies, Agriculture generally. I'm saying Journal of Peasant Studies, Journal of Agrarian Change, things like so many journals are there. So you might, and then there's a Review of Agrarian Studies, which is based in India. And there are different journals that you can look into in order to find a particular topic of interest. So if you want to study agriculture, you have these 3-4 journals, right? So that's just how you identify main journals. And I think it always helps to go to Google Scholar and just see the list of journals. That's how. And of course, there are other websites that you should never visit, which gives like like there is this website known as Library Genesis. Like if you type your book name, you could probably download it for free. And there is this website known as Sci-Hub, where you can actually, if you enter the digital object identifier, which is called the DOI. Every journal article would have a DOI, which is like a URL. So if you just enter into that Sci-Hub, you could download it for free. 95% it will be there. So, but then don't visit that, right? Like there are that is pirated, and I do not endorse that. So now, again, like you have so much material. When do you draw the line? As I said, reading never stops. The project has a deadline, which means that you have to draw a clean line. And there are certain tips that just came to my mind about how you want to do that. First is like you identify the key themes in the literature, and then you identify what are the key points that the authors are trying to say, and always look for like whether there's a debate that's going on. There might be certain camps in the debate, right? Like this is something that people probably never don't really, a lot of people don't understand, like when there is a debate there are camps in the debate. So there will be like one scholar who's actually associated with that camp, but might be modifying that argument in that particular camp, right? And might be contributing to that camp in the debate. And that's just how academia is. That's just how academic debates also work. And these debates might be about the methodologies that are used or the socio-political implications of that particular research. So you have those debates, and then once you see like, okay, there's a group of people saying ABC about a particular topic, and there's a group of people who are saying XYZ about the same topic. And then you identify, oh, okay, so it's easy. Okay, this guys are saying this thing and these guys are saying another thing. They're empirically proving this thing, and they're also empirically proving XYZ, right? Like, so once you identify that, it's much more easier to actually intervene into that debate also. And you might want to join a particular camp, that's fine. You can also say something new about that particular topic, that's also fine, right? So this is how academic research and generally debates work. So just keep that in mind. And as I said, like there are certain tips to make this easier. Like if you just go for the latest journal, latest article, as I said, you can just identify it from the journal that you first identify a journal for your topic, like 2, 3, 4 journals maybe, and then you go to their latest issue and see what is published at the latest paper on that particular topic, and you could see and once you actually go and download that, you will see that that person probably has reviewed the existing literature probably from the beginning, and that's much more easier for you, which means that you would probably be able to identify the studies in that particular topic, and it's much more easier to do that, right? And you have to read that review of literature part very clearly. Like as I said, every academic essay or journal article would have a review of literature part, and you have to read that very carefully to know like what are the arguments that they're saying. So as I said, this is again, there might be some campism involved in this. Like this person might be belonging to a particular camp in academic research, right? In that particular topic. So you need to see like why this person is refuting the other camp, and then you go to the other camp and see why that person is refuting this camp. And that's how knowledge is being created. It's like a dialectical process to understand a particular topic, right? And then when you see these two camps, like when you identify different things, you see that you could see certain papers that are cited more, right, the most, and these are the seminal papers in that topic, and that's something that you also might have to cite when you're writing your assignment or your essay or something like that. So just keep that in mind. These are like simple tips, like basic tips that I got from my own engagement with literature. Most of you might, this pretty commonsensical also. So yeah, I hope that was useful. Now, how not to plagiarize. Don't plagiarize. It's plagiarism, like it's an ethical consideration, and so just don't lift off entire sentences from a particular text. You could lift off like one sentence, 2 sentences, but then properly quote it, properly cite it, things like that. Because there is a software that this particularly uses called Turnitin, which can detect like plagiarism from a mile away. So and you need to have a certain threshold. I think like it varies from professors to professors, but you need to actually know that you could get caught, and this that isn't really good. Like your grades will go down, and nobody wants that. So but then there is also like you need to understand that when you're actually saying something, you're not reinventing the whole thing. So you don't have to, like when you're studying unemployment, it's not like you go back to what the first measures of unemployment were, and you're just rewriting the whole thing again. That is plagiarism, right? That doesn't make any sense. You don't have to do that, but you're just really modifying it and you're building upon it. So you're saying why those measures of unemployment don't probably make sense, and you're trying to build a index or measure of unemployment yourself. So that's how research usually works. Now, as I said, you can paraphrase from your notes. That's why note taking is very important while you're reading, and that helps you to actually cut down your plagiarism, and that and don't like copy direct quotes from the literature that you're reading. So again, so that is why note taking is very important. And when you're actually quoting directly from text, when you're saying like, oh, that's unavoidable, you have to properly cite it with page numbers, and that's the standard academic practice, and you just have to look at it. So how to cut down plagiarism? Like you are feeling like you can't really think about it. That's not true. Everybody would have something to contribute. Trust me. Like when you are in a particular topic and when you are looking at a particular topic, you will have some ideas about it. It might be very basic. Some people might have already developed on your particular idea and made like seminal academic contributions to it, but still you would have something to say about something, right? Like about the topic at hand. And that really comes from engaging with a lot of literature. Obviously, like you have to, as I said, buy the pots and pans and the groceries to cook, but you need to identify how you're thinking about that particular topic, your thought pattern, right? Your own experience, but then try to be objective about it also, right? So that's how you intervene without plagiarizing. And as I said, for citations, you could use different softwares like Google Scholar. You could use, like as I said, if you just go to Google Scholar and just type the academic article, you'll see a list of academic articles with links, and then there is a quote option that is just below that link. You just click that and you see like 5, 6 citation options like APA, MLA, Harvard, Chicago, things like that. So you could just use what your professor wants you to use. Some people might say you have to use APA. Some people might say you have to use Harvard or Chicago. So that's just a way of citing that particular essay. It's just I don't honestly know why it exists. It doesn't make sense to me. But then there are different ways in which some journals would insist you need an APA citation. Some journals would insist you need a Harvard citation or a Chicago citation. So just go by that requirements of your professor or your journal. So you could use Google Scholar. Then there is also this software known as Big Text. It's a website, I think. I generally use Google Scholar, and it's not that efficient. But then I think like once you dwell deeper into it, like you will also learn about how to use softwares and things like that. I'm not very efficient when it comes to citation. I just use Google Scholar. So BibTeX is also another online citation generator. You just need to enter the DOI of that particular article, as I said, the digital object identifier, and it gives you the citation. Zotero also can be used for reference managers. Maybe others like Amira and all who are here would be able to talk a little bit more about this. Maybe, yeah, obviously. So here I've given some examples about citing articles using the APA style. It's like the American Psychological Association. And this is something that I've been using, like the APA style. But some professors might insist you need to use like some other styles. Just consult with them, but most of them are okay with whatever. So APA is a commonly used style. So there is this resource online that you could check. It's called the Purdue University's OWL citation guidelines, the online writing lab. And if you just Google for it, and if you just look for the citation guidelines, you could see different examples, and you could just understand what is the basic of citation here. As I said, when you structure an academic essay, I actually didn't mention that in the structure of academic. At the end of it, you will have a reference list, right? A reference list or a bibliography list. What's the difference between a reference and a bibliography? Reference list is the list of stuff that you have cited in your journal article, and a bibliography would be a much more expanded thing. That is probably things that you have referred, but you haven't necessarily cited in your piece of writing. So a reference list always includes only the stuff that you've cited. Bibliography is a much more expanded things which you have read, but you haven't cited. Probably a way of showing off, or maybe just giving much more information about what is useful. Sorry. So then you have certain ways. So I'm using a APA style, as I said. So certain ways in which you could use the in-text thing. So look at these 3 sentences. It's from Scott and Stopper, 2015. It's a journal article called "The Nature of Cities" in a journal called the International Journal of Urban and Regional Research. And you have these are 3 different examples of in-text citation. So you could say historically urban centers have evolved due to quote, because I'm taking it from Scott and Stopper, that particular article, right? So you have a complex interaction between blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then you write the year name, which is 2015, and then you put the page number. That's how you usually do it. You can also write like this: according to Scott and Stopper, year urban centers have historically evolved due to blah, 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 and page number. Okay, and then you could also write it in a different way. And I put this way in order to show the importance of this thing known as IBIT. So IBIT is something that you would actually come across in academic writing. It just means like it's 2015 page 6. That's the same thing that you're seeing here also, right? Like IBIT means you don't have to repeat 2015 page 6 again if you're citing in the next 2 or 3 sentences. So you don't have to put that exact same citation again. So if it means refer to the previous reference, that's the same thing here. Okay, cool. So then there's a reference list. That's also a way in which you write. So I can't really explain it, but then I guess like you always go by surnames, right? So and then you put the initials of the first names as initials, and then you put an ampersand sign, you put a comma, ampersand sign. I think you could just Google Scholar it. It's weird when I start explaining like this, but then and you could just identify the pattern in which this is written. So the Nature of Cities, that's a journal article's name. The International Journal of Urban and Regional Research, that is the journal name. You put that in italics. And 39.1 is it's volume 39, issue 1, and 1 to 15 is the page numbers. So that is like a journal thing. And second example that I've given is a book chapter. So you write like words, and then as these are two co-authors again, and you put the year, and then you put the book chapter, that is Mapping Small Towns Productive and Employment Configurations in, that is a book chapter in a particular book, right? In Subaltern Urbanization in India, that's a book name. And then you provide the page numbers. You put PP here because there are like, it's like 2 different pages. That's PP, not P. And then you put the publisher name, Springer, and then you put the location, which is New Delhi. So you could just do this automatically. I mean, don't really worry about citing. It's not a big deal. So once you start using these things, it's going to be useful. So yeah, I guess that's it. We've come to the end of the presentation, and I guess I am done. I hope this was useful somehow. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thank you.
So thank you, Aabid. I think Harshada had some technical issues, so she will be rejoining in a minute.
Right. She was the one person who was leaving and exiting. I was like wondering what. Yeah. Okay.
So
right.
I mean, yeah. I don't want to comment on what you have just did, because it has been like very elaborative, and I would say it at this point, maybe some points wouldn't make sense, but as like when they kind of go in through more of reading and maybe just navigate through the journals, because at this point I'm not sure how many of them might have really kind of accessed this remote access. So I'm not just sure how many of them have done.
Then there are other resources that I mentioned that you should never access, right? So so never access those, because those resources give things for free, right? Like who wants free stuff? So never access Library Genesis and Sci-Hub, as I was saying.
So yeah, maybe most of them might be like hearing the name also for the first time. Like, do they really do? I mean, maybe people have not even believed that they will give it for free. So
absolutely,
that is also there. So what we'll do right now, I think some of the questions have already come in here. So we'll
cool.
So before reading out the question, I just want to say that like we have, like as Harshada mentioned in earlier part, that we have received like around 300 registrations, and as you know, we can only accommodate like 100 people like in the Zoom. And so what we are because also many of them have been like asking us personally also in the chat boxes that whether this recorded version will be available. So yes, we'll be making it like available to you, but make sure that you are actually kind of getting in touch with the links that we have just pasted in the chat box, because we'll be maybe doing it in the YouTube in the video version, and also maybe podcast version, because not everyone can access like video with too much of data on all those issues. So maybe podcast.
I just wanted to say, Praveen, you're right. It's Max. Yeah. I mean, I just saw in the chat box now. Yeah.
Yeah. Praveen might be happy that you got it right. So
Meera, can I ask a question just before moving to this?
Yeah.
Just one question. Aabid, can you once again define what is literature basically? In academics, what is literature? How do you define literature?
Right. I mean, literature is not like the stories and the fiction and the stuff that you commonly understand. Literature is just like published material on a particular topic. So when I say like unemployment, there will be existing literature on unemployment, and that could be like policy reports ranging from, as I said, World Bank, ILO. It could be the Government of India reports. All those are literature. And then there will also be academic journals that publish articles, right? Like certain research articles on that particular topic also. So that's also counted as literature. So any published material on a particular topic, that's called a literature, right? Hope that's clear. Ramdas, if you want to add something, please go ahead.
No, that's enough. That's enough.
Okay. Cool. I hope this was useful for folks. Like, I don't know if I went over the board or like under the board, I don't know. But then I've tried to keep it as basic as possible. But then please feel free to like shoot very basic questions also, no problem.
So what we'll do is that, because most of them, I mean, we have kind of organized this session for the first years. We would like to also to connect with you even through these kinds of sessions. So what I would suggest is that you can just switch on your video too, so that we can see you. And also if you want to ask some question, you can directly ask it like right onto face. But if people have put it in the chat box, so I'll just read it out, and if there is more clarification needed,
I can read it. Like, all right,
go ahead.
If online websites is like this, I mean, whatever works for you, Renu. Like, it really doesn't matter. Just make sure, like you, as I said, like you have an idea about how the formatting of the. I'm sorry. You know, just the formatting of that particular citation is there, right? Like, so just make sure that it is correct, and don't blindly trust tools also, because just be careful about it, just be cautious about it. Sometimes softwares can really you know, mess up things. So just make sure that it subscribes to that and use whatever software works for you. That's fine. I mean, yeah.
I just want to add what you have said. So I have kind of like worked with Cite This For Me, but the problem with Cite This For Me is that it will not kind of like, because they are automatically capturing the author separately, the title, it might not work for a number of articles. That is what I've observed, because usually it has to be in a very strict format in order for that to kind of format it in that way.
And would you recommend any particular software as such?
No, what I have been doing is that I does it manually through the Word. Like, I don't know, because I think we'll do it like later. There is like an inbuilt function in the Microsoft Word where you can see on the tab references, there is in-text citation given there. So once you click on that, then you can be at least sure that whatever you're typing is just, you have typed it manually, so that it is like, so it is not much. And also you'll get to know who are the authors. With the other apps, we might not even kind of have the thought of like who are the authors. We might not be even familiar with the names of the author, titles of the article. So I kind of feel Word is like enough, like fair enough. But if people are kind of experienced with the Zotero, Mendeley, I mean, I think they can go ahead. I think it suits each one's.
I mean, whatever really works for you. I mean, I think like just there is YouTube. YouTube is a huge online resource that you could just use, and there are like 5-minute videos explaining citations. So see if that works for you, and then go ahead. I mean, whatever works for you. Kritika, yes, it's great that you haven't been using LibGens in school. That's fantastic.
Now I think she might be, I mean, they have to use it, obviously, because now they have joined us. They'll not.
Don't use
bookmark. I kind of assure you, it will be your bookmark on your tab.
Right. So, Mohit, suppose if I'm asked for an abstract to present a paper in a webinar, summit, conference, how ideally can I work on it? And regarding the word limit a word limit for an abstract will be like 250 words, maybe 250 to 500. So that's the usually the word limit. How do you work for it? So like you would probably have an idea about that particular topic, right? And you would have an outline about how you want to write your research paper, conference paper, or a journal article or something like that. So it makes sense to actually have a rough draft of your journal article ready before you write an abstract, if it makes sense. Because see, when you actually write your research paper, and then you write an abstract. There is something about it, you're summarizing something. But when you write an abstract first and then writing your research paper, you will have to revise your abstract after you write your research paper, right? Like it will inevitably change. So having a rough outline of your conference paper actually helps first, and then you summarize it into a few words. So I guess, like, don't write abstracts for conferences if you don't have data, and like if you don't have something for it. Like if you have something for it, you'll be able to put it in 250 to 500 words, right, Meera? I think, do you have something to add about this?
What I also feel is that it depends on like whichever organization or whichever journal is asking for the abstract. Mainly I've seen like 150s kind of an average word limit for the
and
abstract.
Absolutely, like I just wanted to say, like, conferences is like business, you know. People would, you might have to pay like 750 or 1,000 rupees, and that's a form of income for that particular organization. So usually, like, sometimes people just don't care about abstracts also, in all honesty. Like they don't, you know, if you're like on a presenter for a conference, it's a big deal. I'm not at all negating that, but then the organizers would be okay with, you know, whatever work that you put in if you're paying, you know. So but then that's not an excuse for, like, you know, that's just a tip. So but keep bringing your best shot, obviously. Like, so as a PhD student, it's possible to get research grants for pursuing your project to make it more far-reaching and substantive. How do you know?
Aabid, I think that question is not directly related to the session what we are handling right now.
Okay.
So the person who have asked the question can be in touch with the people, the PSF leadership here, or you can connect with the responsible people who are the expertise on that matter.
Cool.
We can move to next question.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Thanks, Janice. Thank you. Okay.
I think Shiksha has raised her hand like very long. Go ahead, Shiksha.
Yeah. Hi, Shiksha. Yeah.
Hi, Aabid. Thank you for the session. It's been very informative. So, I've just done my bachelor's and I did a bit of academic writing in my bachelor's. So, one problem that I usually face is that there is the same idea or similar idea being quoted in a lot of papers by a lot of different authors, and it becomes very difficult to identify where it originated, where this particular idea originated from, and then how do we go about properly quoting that particular author who gave birth to that idea. And so is there a tip there?
Right. So you're basically asking, like, how do we really find the origins of that particular topic or particular concept?
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody is using. I guess that's the way, because in those, like, number of citations that you can see in a paper, there will be one person who gets repeated again and again, right? Like so that person, you probably have to visit that particular paper and see whether that person is coining that term for the first time, and that's how you cite it. That's just like getting to the depth, you know, getting to the roots of it. That's just, for instance, this concept called neoliberalism, that probably you will come across like a lot in TIS also. So who originated the term neoliberalism? It's very hard. But then if you dig deeper into it, you would see that it was in 1950s. You would see like the economist Milton Friedman using that word neoliberalism, but nobody actually knows that Milton Friedman used the word neoliberal, right? Like, so you just go deeper into it, and it's certain articles that would cite these things, and it's just reading more to identify, you know, oh, this person has been cited, so maybe I should go visit that particular journal, right? Okay, and then you say, bingo, you know, this person is saying what I term neoliberalism is blah 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 blah. Okay. So that's just how you said. Yeah, I hope that's useful. So,
yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So I think
have more questions from. We can first have Prahlad, and then we can have Twinkle.
During bachelor's we had to write certain papers, and my experience was that on many occasions, like whatever we have to say has already been said. So I mean that is one major cause of anxiety, that I mean how important is it that we should like have some sort of a brainwave, you know, some sort of an idea which is original for our dissertation to have value.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is this joke that goes around in academic circles that the greatest ideas that you have will be destroyed in a simple literature review. literature search or in Google. So you would have like very ambitious ideas like, oh, I'm gonna write about this, but then you just go and like look at the existing literature, like you'll see a dozen people who's already written about it. And that too, like if you're like looking at some remote village in Maharashtra or something, you would have some American professor writing about it. That's the weirdest thing. Like you wouldn't expect. Some people from Sweden might have studied it. Like that's gonna happen. But then again, I would insist, like, what made you passionate about that topic? And when you actually dwell deeper into that particular topic, you would have something to contribute. There will be something, right? Like you would have some sort of perspective, and that comes with a lot of reading also. And when you see that, when you said that there are lots of articles published on that particular topic, yes, guaranteed there would be. So but once you read those articles, you would find loopholes in them. Once you start critically engaging with them, you'll be like, oh, that doesn't make sense, right? And that is how you actually contribute to that existing research. So let me be honest, like in a MA dissertation, you are not like expected to come in with like an original contribution to research or something like that. Like it's not like a PhD thing or a research article for that matter. If you can do, well and good, but then you're not expected to do that also. But then you will make some sort of an original contribution also. So I'm saying that you'll bring in a certain perspective, and that perspective will be enriched by your field work or your particular case study that you're looking at. So, and that's how you can contribute. That's just how it works. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twinkle, you want to go?
Yeah, hi. So I am basically new to the field of social work and to academic research and like reading it also. So this session was really important for me to attend, and I really gained a lot from it. So thank you for that. And then I wanted to ask, like, since you mentioned camps, so camps as in, are they there for pushing a certain ideology and to like
Okay.
give their point of view from that perspective, or does it have, am I misinterpreting it, like what you said? So
No, you're not wrong. And I don't see that as a bad thing. Everybody has their own ideology, in my opinion, and everybody has their own perspective about how the world works and how the world should work or how the world should change. So that's ideology. Everyone has an ideology, and like even if you say that you don't have an ideology, you would say that that's actually ideology, right? Like that's you cannot insulate yourself from ideology. That's something that's there. It's like fish swimming in water and saying that there is no water around. We are like being swarmed by ideology. And the fact that when people recognize that they're being, okay, like political, I want to be centrist and neutral, I want to be something about it, that's not possible for a human being to do that also beyond a particular point. So it's just about taking sides. It's about which side are you on, the golden age, the golden question, like which side are you on? And that's what motivates you to do research. But I'm also saying like, facts should change your mind also. Like when you go to fieldwork and when you do your objective study about something, and if you're finding something that is contradictory to your own ideology, you should probably think about it, critically think about it, engage with peers in your in your circle also, and that's how you revise your views. So that's just a process of research and process of knowledge production. It's a non-linear process, as I said. It takes a lot of time, and that's just how it works. Yes, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, roundabout way. Yes, Varsha. Yeah, sure. Varsha.
So, hi, Aabid. My question is that in my undergraduate, I used some statistics to quote that I have arrived at this option. So statistics is like kind of plagiarism. So how do you solve that? How do
statistics?
Yeah,
I wouldn't really agree that you could. Statistics isn't plagiarism. Statistics is just a tool so that you could use. Like there would be numbers there. For instance, you are using census data. A lot of people work with census data in order to study a particular topic, but then it's about how you use that particular data in order to arrive at your particular conclusion, right? So that isn't plagiarism. So when you're actually using the same kind of data, the same kind of method, and to arrive at the same conclusion, that is plagiarism. That is not probably what you would do in research also. That's not probably what you want to do. Maybe you want to actually use data in order to confirm an existing argument. Even that isn't plagiarism, in my opinion. Like you are using some data that somebody else hasn't used, and then you're using in order, and then you're confirming a particular argument that already exists. That isn't plagiarism also. So I don't think that is plagiarism. That unless you're like replicating step by step at every step, and you're arriving at the same conclusion, that is plagiarism. Otherwise, it isn't. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, like people use a lot of databases in order to do research. Like economists simply use a lot of like existing research, like census, labor bureau surveys, or things like that. So lots of surveys are there. It's about how you use that numbers, right? Numbers can be used to tell like different stories. That's what our central government is also doing right now. So you have very different stories to tell. Like and you could use the same numbers to tell a different story. And that's about being methodologically sound in your research also. And that's something that you will learn along your master's. It's not something that I could teach you. But then when you do research, you have to be like, you know, plug all existing loopholes in your methodology also. But there will be still some loopholes, but then still plug the maximum number of loopholes that you could in order to arrive at that concrete conclusion. And that's something you will learn surely in your time of test. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. Great. Yes, Tejashwari. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes. So you spoke about case studies, right? So I just wanted to know if, for instance, in an assignment, I want to, include some kind of case study which I found is extremely relevant to that particular topic. Yeah. How should I ideally go about it?
I guess talk to your supervisor about it. And see did you say a dissertation or your assignment? I didn't.
Assignment or dissertation, okay. Anything.
Yeah, like if it's your dissertation, surely you'll have to consult with your supervisor and see what works and whether it actually makes sense to do that particular case study. Assignments are much more liberal when it comes to these things, but then you just you don't simply pick, oh, I went to buy vegetables and I saw this in the street, so I'm just going to use that as part of my. That's not how you do it, right? Like there is some sort of method to using a particular case study, and just make sure that you are getting that method right. Because just read a little bit more about case studies in general. Like you could just Google for it and you could see what is the steps in order to make a sound case study, and then you see whether you're following those steps somewhat, and then you could use it in your assignment or dissertation or whatever. But dissertation, obviously, consult with your supervisor before you do something, and they would give more input on that. It really varies from context to context, so I'm not probably able to answer your correct question to your satisfaction, but I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. All right. Anyone else?
We have a question on the chat box which says, does taking a diagram from journal counts in plagiarism?
No, it doesn't. It's about whether you're lifting that, what kind of diagram. That's important, right? Obviously, if you're using that particular diagram to drive your okay, so this is something that I did, and as long as you properly cite it, that's fine, right? And that diagram shouldn't be your central argument, right? It can probably support your argument, and that's fine as long as you cite it. But cite it, that's all. Don't take more than 3-4 diagrams from a particular report. Take maybe 1 or 2. What is most important, and what makes you what makes your substantiates your argument, and properly cite it. That's all. You could take diagrams, but cite it. I guess that's what I would say. Afnan, yeah. Oh, sorry, Afnan. I missed the beginning and was late, so I'm not sure. I just have doubts how long our assignments are expected to be. Do they give us any number of pages or words? They have to submit it as a PDF. That depends upon your course, I guess. You have to, there would be certain guidelines to writing assignments, I guess, for master's folks. So I don't know, maybe someone else should talk about it. I haven't done a master's at this. I was doing an MPhil. So maybe Punya, Harshada, someone probably want to talk about it. Assignment, length that is expected.
So as Aabid mentioned, only it depends on your course teacher.
Yeah.
Somebody wants 5,000, somebody wants 10,000, somebody wants 2,000. It's all like a supermarket. You are expected to provide how much of the words they are asking.
It's not just about the teachers also. Every teachers will be having different types of assignments also. So maybe 1,500. Even I had 500 word assignment, also 5,000 word assignments. So it will be like that. It's up to their board also.
some folks at least not at yeah Harshada,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, please, go ahead.
No, I was just saying
because you are the one who are writing the assignment right now.
yeah.
No,
So,
sometimes they even give you assignments like make a PPT or record a
Right.
video or take
Right.
an interview, do a walking audit of your neighborhood. Things like these also count as assignments. So there's
Right.
a lot of variety.
Right, absolutely. Like there are like two different kinds of professors, in my opinion. Some people who judge assignments by the weight of your assignments, like this. Like I in my previous universities, and not at this, but then I had folks like who used to, grade depending upon how many pages that you write. And particularly in school and high school and all, you see this much. If you have like extra papers, you get like more grades. That's a logic or some or whatever. But there are people who actually look at the depth of your argument also, like what you're writing also, and that's what actually matters, in my opinion, for academic writing. Yeah. Okay, Mohit, I hope that answers your question, Afnan. So yes, okay, like in the popular satirical discourse, how much does the density of citations occur in an academic text in reality? I'm not sure what that means. Are you asking a matter? Okay, how much does the density? Okay. Yeah, the more you cite, I mean, don't cite for the sake of citing, right? Like you don't have to like plug in like everything under the sun just to show that you read a lot. Like that doesn't make, I mean, professors can spot that from a mile away, I guess. Some people may be like happy with that because like, oh, you read a lot, okay, cool. But then just cite the existing literature that is most relevant to your topic, and that's just how you do it. So there isn't a particular number for this. It really matters. Like it really doesn't matter. Like there isn't a specific number, but then make sense. Use your own sense to actually look at how much you want to cite and what not to cite. And as I said, like draw a line. Like when you read a particular topic, you would see a particular in a reputed journal. Like identify reputed journals from the Google Scholar. Like as I said, like if you're studying agrarian change, there are like different journals, like the Journal of Peasant Studies and Agrarian Studies and Agrarian Change and Review of Agrarian Studies, etc. If you want to know about like issues associated with peasantry and things like that, and you go and look at them and see how many citations they are doing, like in their introduction and their review of literature, and you would get an idea about what the main texts are, and that's just the format that you have to follow. So yeah, don't cite for the sake of citing, because that doesn't matter. Yeah.
And also to add, the thing with in-text citation is that even though you may have read like maybe 50 articles, maybe you can only like the relevant points that you have maybe formed by reading the whole 50 articles might be like what, 20 or 10, because only 10 of these articles might be like really making the point. But what I would like to say is that even if you read 50 articles, you can keep it in the terms of bibliography. Like you needn't keep it in the in-text citation of the whole, like the main structure, but you can keep it in the bibliography at the end because you have read it, obviously. So it counts. And also regarding the tests, I should say some of the professors want a minimum of articles to be read. So that is there. So in that case, you have to produce all those, I mean, whatever number they're saying. I mean, I think in the beginning, I remember like 30 articles were kind of said as a minimum or maximum. I can't just recollect, but 30 and all, like what they were asking for it. So it also depends on which course and faculty.
like I guess like writing for an assignment or like for a small thing, around 15 to 20 or 15 to 25 might be like an average number of citations that is expected. And trust me, like you can do it. It's not like you have to read all those 25 articles. Let's be honest, nobody's going to read it like from top to bottom. Like, but then when those particular points that strike out, you'll have to skim through these things, and that's where like different reading techniques come. Some articles you have to read in depth. Some articles you might just want to skim and just probably read their abstract and introduction and conclusion only. You don't have to read everything from top to bottom. So pick up the points that actually matter to you and just cite it. And that's why I said writing is a form of art. And trust me, like it's a very frustrating process. It's a very non-linear process. Like if you want to, sometimes like when you want to write, you would probably have to read like 10 articles. I was saying 10 articles to write one sentence. And that happens, like especially like for research, if you're doing serious research, that happens, and it's very frustrating. But I hope like for assignments and all, you don't have to worry too much about it. I guess like you guys will be able to manage, I'm sure.
Just adding to it, the thing is, in the statement what Aabid was making in the last comment might be just scary to many people here, that for an assignment you have to read 15 to 20 articles. I mean, don't take it literally like that. You can read
As I was
lesser
saying,
also.
yeah,
You can read
absolutely,
lesser also.
absolutely.
Especially in MA time, you'll be doing n number of assignments. At that time, you won't be able to read 15 to 20 articles per assignment. But
Yeah.
still, you can refer this much. I mean, at least
Absolutely.
you can add that much in your bibliography.
Yeah, and that's
lengthy
what I was
BP is always an
advantage. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, don't read like from top to bottom. Even if you're citing like 15 to 20, I don't think like you have to read from top to top. Just read their abstract, introduction, conclusion. What's the major points that they say and cite it. That's what. That makes much more sense, right? Like, and you guys will pick up the art of writing once you write like two to three assignments. It's just, you find your own tricks to get away with this. So, and to save time. So yeah.
And also, I would say if you can get hold of like a structure, if I could say, like a systemic review. There are papers which does systemic review of the literature. That would be the best, like, because it will be like a dictionary kind of sort thing, where the paper will be reviewing all the articles of a certain time period or a certain concept which are like prominent authors have written on. So from that one particular paper, you are getting too much of information, which otherwise you have to kind of dig and go around and like see which all have written. So always try Google, try systemic review or a review of articles on. So then that single articles will give you the more information on the same.
Right. That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
At the same time, that is like shortcuts to
No. I think it's very useful, and that's the purpose of such review articles also. So you can get like probably like 30-40 citations from that also, saying the same point. So that's just how you use it. And also, as I said, like even every article will also have a review of literature component to it. So if you are not able to find a systematic review of the existing literature in your topic, you could just identify that article in your topic and see the review part in that topic, and then also see. That's also concise, not as big as a systematic review article, but then it would be you could use it.
But I think we should explain what that systemic review. So systemic review is like a kind of paper where the author of that paper is trying to bring in all the most of the literature relating to a particular phenomenon. So if we take an example of, let's say, about a dropout of students in a particular community or a particular area. So that in a systemic review, what happens is that the author is trying to get as much of papers which have been written on the dropout of the students. So the author will be maybe narrowing it down in terms of time period, because obviously one person cannot do like the whole literature. So the person will be narrowing it down in terms of time period, or maybe in terms of area, or in terms of maybe some particular concept relating to that subject. So in that terms, what the author will be only presenting the important findings on the same. So a person, there will be articles on, or he will, or the author will be citing as in, this person has written on this concept, and while this person has written in this way, the other person has written on this. So it will be a complete list of what all different authors have written on the same subject. So I think maybe you can just, after the session only, you can just go ahead and Google and see for yourself how it looks like also.
Sometimes it really doesn't have to be journal articles also. Some organizations, NGOs, etc. also do these kind of stuff. So if you don't have to go to Google Scholar for this, you could just Google for it and say existing literature. A survey, it could be brief survey on something, or it could be a systematic review. These are the words that they usually use, and you'll be able to find like documents on it, like if you're Cool. So anyone else wants to?
I think Harshada wants to ask something.
Yeah, my first year isn't getting over only. So, so what I used to face, and I still face this issue, that when I try to write about something, I get drowned in data. Like there is so much data, and then I'm not able to form an argument only. Like I don't know if it happens with others, but it happens to me. So how to avoid this situation?
I don't know. That's just lots of data. It just exists. Like it's like, it's the way in which the academia has also developed as a business, right? There's like overproduction. Lots of people are there. It's like walking. First time I went to an American supermarket here, I was overwhelmed. Like lots of stuff, right? Like it's just how it is. And as I said, like, but then always there would be some seminal texts in that particular topic, or certain things that are like that form the core of the argument, and which are probably, you could go by the journal's importance also. There will be like lots of small journals that probably wouldn't make much of a research impact also, and you have to probably keep them aside when you're writing your work, and then focus on the key journals, like I said, EPWSH or TNF or things like that. So you could look at them and what they are saying and what they're responding, and just use that as a starting point, I guess. And that's a weird answer that I gave, but then I guess like that's just how I do it. And maybe like Ramdas or Meera or someone else wants to add something. I don't know how to deal with this overproduction in academia.
Just one thing, Amit, regarding this, if it is an assignment or if it is a dissertation, I think something being clever also on this. I mean, whom are you going to deal with this? Who is your supervisor? What is the nature of the school you are working with? School or the center you are working with? So definitely you'll be having a huge amount of data in front of you, but you can dig out which relates to these people and also to the line which you are following, or some idea you'll also be having. No? So the rest of the things you can just cut it off and take those things. I mean, lean to those arguments or whatever data, use those data. I mean, whenever you in academic writing, always you will be facing this, and you'll have to sacrifice some data, some argument also. When always that you'll face it anyway. So the thing is, consult or consider, understand your institute, your sender, your supervisor, and more than any of this, understand yourself also. I mean, take your own life also, so you'll be able to find it. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's the answer to the question.
I think one more thing that we also need to learn is that what you don't want, understanding that, like when you go to a supermarket, you are confused what to take, but you really do know which section you don't want to go, right? So eliminate. Elimination is like one method.
Yeah, best method.
Okay,
that's correct. Yes.
So I think we'll take up the question in the chat box and then maybe
like,
go to the.
Yeah. So Anand has asked, should presentations be formal, semi-formal, informal? Should be, in my opinion, semi-formal. Just make it a little bit more humorous and don't come and speak like a robot. Try to crack jokes in between because it gets people's attention. But lots of people just do formal presentations, and you tend to sleep through it. But then it's up to you, right? Like I would say semi-formal. I try to make a little bit jokes in presentations. I don't know if it's funny or not, but then it's just how I think. So yeah.
Yeah, Aabid, it was funny. I can.
It was funny as in I was a clown, or like was it okay?
The right amount of funny. Also, I'd like to add one small thing for the assignments. Like many people, so I come from an architectural background, right? So in my assignments, there was also this thing of strong visuals representations. So I think formal, semi-formal is one thing, but maintaining your background and bringing inputs from that can be useful. And you should also try to put in your own individuality in your assignments. I think that always shines across. So that
absolutely,
is one thing you
absolutely.
should keep in mind.
I think that's a very important point. Like visualizing and also like certain things. Like I used to have this mistake of like inundating PowerPoints with a lot of text. Okay, like initially I don't know why I did that, but then I used to do that initially, and it was my professor at TIS who basically said, don't clutter things like this. So that's there are certain tips about presentations that everybody should follow. Like colors, color palettes. Mine was pretty basic. It was white and black, but then don't go for such boring stuff. Like just use some layouts, things like that. That would help, I guess. Yeah.
I think
So,
we'll just move to the
Ankita.
person who have raised the hand and
Yeah,
then go to the chat.
Maybe,
Yes.
Abid, like since we are almost closing, maybe you can take 2 questions and.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take Ankita and Richa. Ankita, please go ahead. So Ankita is not here. So but I also see Ria's question. Is there any platform where we can access last year's? Yeah, you can be muted, Ankita. You can just type it in the chat box also, no problem. 1 second. So, okay. Is there any platform where we can access last year's assignments as people like me have prior experience? Yeah, DSpace, right? Not
No, you don't get
assignments.
an assignment. You get a
Assignments
dissertation.
are not there. Yeah, you get your dissertations and all in DSpace.
I mean,
but not
if there
assignments.
were assignments, me, Ramdas would have run from the TIS like long back.
Yeah.
Previous assignments are there. So
yeah,
I mean, we don't have that.
yeah, not assignments, but dissertations and all that stuff.
And some term papers also, I think, available.
Oh.
You could just ask your seniors.
Yeah, seniors.
Get it from them. They'll give you.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Any specific suggestion would you want to give regarding the user library for assignments and dissertation? I'm the bad person to answer that. Like,
Meera would be the best person here.
Yeah, I don't use LibraryGen and SciHub, so I don't know. Like,
I think our library, if who's this person? I don't know if the person is asking regarding this library access. I would say assignments, JSTOR. I would say EPW and Sage. Sage might be a little too much at this point of time, but
yeah,
I think JSTOR and EPW would be. I think we'll also, if I don't know whether everybody knows how to kind of navigate through how it is, because it has just changed the interface right now. This library has just kind of changed it. It is a little bit tricky right now, but I think we'll try, Ramdas, right? Bringing in some session where they can we can show like how we'll get to the journals and all. And the dissertation, yes, obviously, because dissertation go to there is a section called DSpace and TIS library. You can get the dissertations of the seniors. And I would suggest looking at the dissertation from TIS, because your guide who will be supervising will be from TIS only. So just go and see. You can just find your faculty's name in each dissertation, whichever dissertation they have guided. So in that way, you can get to know how is this faculty looking at the research? How is this? Which are the key points that this faculty needs? So in that way, you'll be able to kind of know what to expect from this faculty when it comes to dissertation. So I would always strongly recommend go to the DSpace and check for the dissertation. Yeah.
I just wanted to add. Meanwhile, can you guys sort out Ankita's technical issue? It seems like she can't. Oh yeah, she's unmuted now. But I'll just answer this. There is this, the 2 websites called Academia and ResearchGate that you could use also. So like if you have a particular person that you're following, like any person who's writing on a particular topic, you go to there and they will probably have a ResearchGate or an Academia profile where they or their students or whoever uploads their entire list of published material. Not entire, maybe like most of them would be available for free for download. So you could probably like look at those websites, Academia and ResearchGate. And also that's also good for like identifying existing literature, because Academia is like Facebook for academics, I guess. Like so once you click on something, you will get like lots of suggestions related to that particular topic also. So that way you can also identify published material on that topic, and that's kind of useful. It can be a bit overwhelming at times, but then you just have to learn to draw the line also.
If you follow particular people or some topics and all, you can be notified in your email also.
Yeah,
that is also one benefit.
Yes.
So
I mean, when the person uploads something,
an account, and you will be notified.
Yeah. Academia and ResearchGate. Yeah. Yes, Ankita. Go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself before.
Yeah.
Thank you for the session. It was very informative, much needed session. So my question is, I have a problem of having too many topics, and I start off with something and I drive off to something else. Like this week actually, I had to write an assignment. It was not even graded. It was just a 1-page assignment. I started off with one topic and I drifted to 6 other topics. I did my research for every topic and practically wrote the assignment halfway through all of them. And then I changed back to something else. How do I not do this every time and not like eat up my head? I mean, the more I read or the more I think about something, I have different topics, but it's not like attainable.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I make sense.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
making
absolutely.
sense.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic phase to be in, by the way. Like you're actually going to a phase of being a researcher, probably. I don't know. Like maybe if you're interested in research, this is how we all start. Like we are like, oh, a dozen topics. But then eventually once you start reading and once you start reading a little bit more about the topic, you would find your own thought pattern about that particular topic or what motivates you to do something. Don't worry, you are in that phase, but it'll pass. So slowly you will start getting motivated and passionate about a particular topic to write in, and that will be like that will motivate you to write assignments. So this is just a phase, it will pass. But also, like on the other side, the brute reality of too many assignments hitting on you will force you to focus on one topic also. That's also going to happen eventually you won't get time to think about 6 ideas. You'll be like, hell, I just want to get this done, right? And that's gonna happen also. So don't worry, like eventually this will pass. Yeah, Ankita. All right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, cool.
Also, another thing, could you just mention the application that you said for note taking? You said Notions and you said
Notion,
another one.
Obsidian, Obsidian. You could use it, like if you want to develop a system of note taking, it might be helpful. And if you want to do research or something as like a PhD or something, starting off early would help. Something that I'm trying to use, not like I'm using that every day. I don't want to be pretentious about it, but then could start using it. It's useful for people who
yes,
have
I was
consistently
actually looking for something like this because I
Great.
use the notes app on Mac, or I use my own. My handwriting is worse than a doctor's handwriting, so I scribble more than write. So I've been trying to look for a good application. So thank you.
Great. You could also read that book that I mentioned, How to Take Smart Notes. It has lots of. It's a very good book. Very good book. And it will really change the way that you start looking at reading and writing in general, in my opinion. Yeah, Mohit, yes, H-index, impact factor, things like that. Yeah. Maybe there would be another session to do that. Yeah. Cool. So I guess we are done.
Right. So are we winding up now?
Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much, Aabid, for taking out the time to conduct this session. And thank you, Meera and Ramdas, for your insights. And I'd also like to thank everybody who's attended the session for your constant engagement and your questions. And it helps us, all of us, grow in a certain way. So thank you for that. And for all those people who have not been able to attend the session or got logged off for some reasons, the recording shall be uploaded soon. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Have a good evening. All right. Bye.